Christina has a lot of background on the commission, and I think she would be a good contributor. So let's just wait 5 minutes. If she doesn't turn up, we'll just go ahead and start. So, Christina, you do not have to stand up in the car, okay?
Let's see.
What did you say?
I said you don't have to stand up in the car.
Okay.
The pledge.
Thanks.
I'll lead the pledge.
Perfect.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to
the republic
that
which
which
is
stands one nation under
God, indivisible,
with liberty and
and justice for all.
Okay, so we have a full house, so that's great. Do we need to go through a formal roll call, Stephen?
You do.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Commissioner Driggers,
Present.
Commissioner Ghosh,
Present.
Commissioner Tang,
Present.
Commissioner Umarini,
Present.
and I'm present. Okay. We have no seating of alternates. I noticed on the agenda as it was printed that we started with the approval of the minutes, the approval of the agenda before the approval of minutes. And I do have a couple of issues. No, I don't. Why don't we just have an approval of the minutes of the June 22nd, 2020 meeting first? And hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to look at that.
So John, you're proposing a change to the agenda?
Not yet. Yes, I have. I've got a couple of questions on the agenda.
Okay.
Let's
So
go back to the minutes first, if we can. The June,
you first have to approve the change of the agenda if you're putting things out of order, I believe.
well, okay, it's one simple thing. If you look on the first page under business items, 9A,
Yeah.
there's a recommendation there. I don't believe that we need a recommendation for the work plan under the community engagement.
You are quite right. That's a typo.
Okay, so with the exception of that, okay, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve. Christina Driggers.
Thank you, Christina. Do I have a second?
Aye.
Thank you. And that was Jaita. Okay, now then, approval of the minutes for June the 22nd.
John, you still have to take a vote of the rest of the commission. They all have to vote aye,
Oh,
the roll call.
thank you, Renee.
You're welcome.
That- yeah. After all these years, and I still don't get it right, do I?
That's okay. It just makes it more fun for Tegan and I, that's all.
All those in favor?
Aye, Benjamin Tang.
I, Sandeep Umrani.
Let me just go through the roll call again here. So Christina Driggers was the, gave the motion. Commissioner Ghosh? Aye. Okay. Commissioner Tang
Aye.
and Commissioner Umarini.
Aye.
Thank you. All right.
John, did you vote?
Oh, I did, yes. A for me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we move on to the public forum. And because Renee is here, I will read the whole thing because otherwise I'll be in trouble. Those interested are invited to address the commission on any subject not on the agenda via the meeting public comments form available at https://www.ci.milpitas.ca.gov/edpublic comment / the chair or designee will read comments out loud meeting and be limited to 3 minutes or less. As an item not listed on the agenda, no response is required of the commission or staff. However, commission members may request staff to add the item to a future meeting agenda. This public meeting will be led with professionalism, respect, and civility. So no, actually on my agenda report it says so, but I think we mean no profanity and or vulgar language will not be shared. Oh, I do. So yeah. Okay, announcements.
So,
Do we
so
have
I
any
do have public comment. If
Oh, we do.
yes. So we get it via email, and I have some to read for you.
Okay.
The first one is from Urvish Kumar Mehta of Milpitas. And it says, I request that city council members and commission members to have promote youth development through Performing Arts Center for cultural event and development. The development of cultural program allow Milpitas to prosper with cultural events and affiliations. Sincerely, Urvish Mehta. And I actually have additional comments. So let me open the next one. Sorry, slow opening here. Okay. Renee, since I know you're on, if you can get on and open them, there's 2 more in there and I'm having trouble opening both.
Okay, let me try.
AAA's here, so I'm gonna step away for a minute.
Okay.
Thanks.
Oh. I'm gonna sign out and try to sign back into it. While I'm doing this, if you notice in your packet, you did have a public comment item last time, but we didn't have a quorum, so we didn't have that. So I've included that as a written item for you.
Okay.
So.
What, do you want me to read that one?
No, I don't think we can because you weren't together. I just included it as a written statement because it is received via email.
Okay.
So I'm just calling your attention to it. Renee, are you having any luck getting in?
I'm not. Why don't you go ahead with the
Okay.
meeting and then I'll try while you guys are doing that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so then we move on to announcements. Tegan, you,
I don't have any announcements at this time.
okay. Were you going to share with us at some point the activity guide, or is that something we'll bring up later?
Oh, I was going to do that under city staff reports, but I can do it now if you'd like. So the Recreation and Community Services Department has just released our first mini activity guide, and it's an electronic document listing all of our activities for the month of September and the first part of October. It is all virtual activities, of course, because we can't gather in person yet. And we are going to be doing these monthly as we go through the fall. And by doing them electronically and in shorter periods of time, we have a little bit more ability to react and take advantage of any positive changes that might happen with regard to the public health orders. So if we are able to gather and have classes in October, then of course our October edition might indicate some in-person activities. So if you notice, if you were to look at the activity guide, you would see that we do have some things in the Milpitas Arts section. And I'm going to talk about one of them later, but one that I wanted to call your attention to is that we are going to have a virtual community theater production, and more details will come in the October issue. So I know you'll want to look for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I did go through the booklet, I guess 35 pages. Is there, are there charges for some of the activities, or is this?
There are, yes. Many of our activities are offered through contract instructors. And so many of those classes do have a charge for them.
Okay, so when you sign on, you find out how much it's going to cost. Is that right?
Yes, when you register for the class, it should tell you how much it costs, and it should tell you in the activity guide. Are you not seeing that?
I didn't see it, but I went through it fairly quickly. I don't think it's there actually at this point.
Okay, I'll have to look into that. I was pretty sure it was in the last draft I saw, but I'll double check.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Chair Ag, the other public comments are from the same person, so we don't read those. So you can move past public comment officially and continue on through your agenda.
okay. That was the one that was read. The gosh, I don't have it now. But, I made a note, but it was the one regarding the amphitheater.
Yeah, that's
okay.
the one. So we'll capture it in the minutes.
Okay. All right. I don't know when is the appropriate time just to ask whether there have been any additions or any new applications for the commission.
I guess you can ask now, and I'm not aware of any applications last time I checked with the city clerk's office.
Okay. And I assume that it's okay for me to go ahead and continue looking for student commissioner individuals. So we had two, but it's all imploded. But I'd like to go ahead and start again on that. So
You're always welcome to encourage people to apply for the commission, of course. Yes.
Okay, including students.
Including student commissioners that are under, that's part of our commission's charge. Yeah.
Right, non-voting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay. All right. The other question I have is, well, maybe I'll bring it up later. So then we move on to business items. And the first one is Public Art Fund update. And I had a few questions on that, but maybe other commissioners would like to start off with any questions they might have on that.
John, Chair Ag, would you like a staff report first?
You can call me John. That's okay.
I know I can, but but I'll give you a quick staff report.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yes. So I wanted to let you know that the Public Art Fund currently has a balance of $1,209,200. So we've had contributions totaling $184,559 since the last report that we gave to you, which was in October. As a reminder and item for any new commissioners, the Public Art Fund is used to pay for all the public art commissions that we commission, as well as any acquisitions, maintenance, and repairs. The city council approves in June a public art budget related to expenses that are anticipated for the coming year. And of course, it's a little bit difficult to predict that before you make your work plan. But based on previous year's budget, we had estimated $97,500 for the 2020-2021 year. And they have approved that amount. This does include money that's been encumbered for the Dixon Landing Park artwork. $21,000 is still encumbered to be paid to the artist. $30,000 for the Higuera Adobe artwork, and that leaves us with $46,500 that is budgeted for other items, including maintenance and repairs and new projects. If we need to, we can go back to the council mid-year and ask for additional monies from the Public Art Fund to be allocated. That concludes your staff report.
Thank you, Tegan. I have a fairly straightforward. The first thing is that the date, there's no date, so I don't know. At the 1,209,200 is as of, is that the end of June? Is it the end of the fiscal year?
Yes, it's at the end of the fiscal year. It was.
Okay. The last time that we had this was in October, and we've received incoming 184,559, which then amounts to, you know, the number that we presently have at the end of June. I guess my question is that net of expenses? Since October, we're saying we've received a lot of money, but we haven't spent a penny.
We have not spent much. We spent a little bit for Dixon Landing. And I would have to look to see exactly how much.
Okay, I mean, if it's nickels and dimes, I'm not interested. But what I guess I was after is really understanding the gross amount versus any material outgoings.
The gross amount that you have in the account right now is $1,209,000.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the activity between last October. So the activity since last October is 184,000 and some change. But what you're suggesting, or could be suggesting, is that there were no expenses.
I believe that's correct.
Huh?
Yes, I believe that's correct. I think that the money that we paid out for occurred before, prior to October.
Okay. So I think that, I'm not sure whether you recall this discussion. It may have been before you were with us, Tegan, but Carmen had raised the issue of understanding the activity in the fund, which really would suggest that we need both the amount that's flowing in and the amount that's flowing out during the period. So I would ask actually that the next time we report, if there is anything material, that you identify that also.
I will do my best to do that. It's sometimes difficult to get that level of detail.
Okay, well, you know, all right, okay. The 21,000 still encumbered, that means that basically that's committed by the council, but it hasn't been dispersed, is that right?
That is correct. It's been committed for a contract to the artist who's doing the work for Dixon Landing. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, why would it take so long? Are we still behind schedule on getting the sculpture up on that, or?
We are working on engineering, and there's been some back and forth and confusion about how to go about getting permitting taken care of.
Or is it just permitting, or is it, would there be additional expenses involved?
I don't know at this point whether there will be additional expenses involved, but it's a permitting issue that's holding us up at the moment.
Okay.
There's also been some delays in construction in general and projects due to COVID. So as we were catching up, so it's not the only one that's sort of, a few weeks behind, but we're figuring that out.
Thank you, Renee.
Mm-hmm.
The other question I had was the net allocation of funds available, total 46,500, as I understand it from your report. I do have a question. If we incur expenses, if we're that far ahead, for historical markers for some of the parks, including the Sunny Hills Park, is that a shared cost with the Parks and Rec, or is that something totally incurred by out of our fund?
I believe if it's considered public art, it would probably come from the public art fund. That would be the source.
Okay, so maybe Renee can help me out. What exactly would we be considering for the other parts? Other, not sculpture or anything, but if it's signage, maybe special signage, that would be considered part of the public art fund?
Yeah, so if the signage is designed by an artist and the project is commissioned, and awarded to an artist, then it qualifies. So not to get ahead of your future item, but if you were to go in with and have a joint project with another commission, like Parks and Rec Commission doesn't have $1.2 million. So you guys have a different funding stream. So there is some potential, there's obviously potential for partnership. However, if the designs are by an artist, then it would be appropriate that it come out of the public art fund. If it ends up not being artist designed and implemented, then at that point, the recommendation would be to fund it some other way.
Okay. Is there a standard for signage in the city?
No, and definitely not for the artist designed ones or the more descriptive or pictorial signs. I always forget the name of it, and Tegan has to remind me of it every single time. The more storyboard type. There's no standards for that. So.
The other thing, I think we'll wait until we get to the discussion on the funds, but the 46.5, if it is to include other parks, Sunny Hills and the Montague pedestrian crossing, it seems that there we could be shortchanging when it comes to the pedestrian crossing. But let me just hold back on that because we're going to talk about pedestrian crossing separately. Do any commissioners have any questions on the public art funds?
I don't. I'm fine. Thanks.
Sandeep, sorry.
I don't have any questions. I'm fine. Thanks.
I can't hear you.
I don't have any questions either. I'm just learning more.
Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. Jada?
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Oh, you don't have a question. I'm sorry. And Sandeep, I didn't get your question.
I don't have any questions.
Oh, okay. I am sorry.
No problem.
And Benjamin?
I have no questions.
Okay. And Christina is probably still working with AAA. All right. Then let's move on to the Montague Pedestrian Overcrossing. And Regan, do you want to?
Yes, I would be happy to give you an update here. So you're being asked today to determine the parameters of the Montague Pedestrian Overcrossing public art and recommend those to City Council. And parameters for artwork could typically include any geographic or demographic restrictions that you want to place on artists, desired art styles, themes, messages, or subject matter, or recommended project fee. Once we determine what you're interested in, that's when we would determine whether or not that 46.5 will cover it. And if you needed to go to council for additional funds, we would have to do that at that time. So in June, you reviewed the Montague Pedestrian Overcrossing project with Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority and City of Milpitas. And that structure may serve as a gateway to the City of Milpitas by virtue of its location. In addition to the structure, as you saw, there's been space set aside at the base of the stairs for public art. And we talked about that last time and have the same images in this report. It's a pre-finished metal wall at ground floor, lots of surface area and highly visible to both pedestrians and motorists. The maximum square footage of the artwork would be 629 square feet. I don't know if you necessarily would need all of the square footage used, but if you were figuring budget, painted murals in the Bay Area are currently going for $10 to $50 per square foot, and pricing goes down per square foot as the size of the mural goes up. Tile murals are considerably more expensive. They're currently $50 to $500 per square foot. Given the size that we have available to us, staff believes the tile mural is probably cost prohibitive and is recommending that the commission pursue a painted mural. And hang on just a minute, I just lost what I was doing. And so with regard to the total price, staff is recommending you probably want to plan on something that's about $10,000 to $15,000 commission, and that would be roughly equivalent to $15.89 to $23.85 per square foot if the artist were to use the entire surface. As I mentioned earlier, it's quite possible that the artist would not propose to use the entire surface. I was counting as part of the surface that other area across the traffic area where it's less visible to the public, and you probably wouldn't need to put a mural there if you didn't want to. In addition to recommending a budget, I wanted to call the commission's attention to the fact that they could add geographic limitations to the artist call, meaning that you could have an artist from the Bay Area, you could open it to Northern California artists, or you could have no limitation on the artists. Staff is recommending Bay Area or Northern California. We don't believe there's a sufficient pool of professional muralists in Milpitas, but there are many, many talented mural artists in the Bay Area and Northern California. So I think that if you limited it to the Bay Area and Northern California, you would have a competitive pool. The budget is not terribly large for a mural if you go with the staff recommendation. And so I don't think that a national or even a statewide call is really going to net you that much in terms of applications, because you'd need to cover travel costs for the artists. In addition to geographic limitations, some calls specify demographic limitations. That could be limiting the call to women artists, artists of color, young or emerging artists, or any type of artists that you're specifically looking for. This is usually done when the artwork is intended to pertain to a specific demographic, or if the commissioning agency has a sizable amount in its collection from a particular type of artist. And for example, if we had all male artists and had no female artists, you might want to limit it to women artists. Our art pool our collection is not that undiverse right now. I don't think it's necessary to add this type of limitation. I think that the surrounding artist pool, people who live in our area, are going to be very diverse anyway. So I think you'll get a nice selection of applicants. As far as artistic style, that is truly a commission interest and preference. You can limit the art to a particular style. When you do limit artwork calls to a particular style, you will get a reduced number of calls. And so for that reason, staff recommends that you don't limit the style. As far as subject matter and theme, oftentimes calls will have a specific theme attached. One that's popular in Bay Area City seems to be the flora and fauna of the area that's being portrayed in the art, or the history of the place, or images that are related to the site's purpose. This could be useful if you wanted the site to convey a message or serve some sort of educational or promotional purpose. There's ways around it that would be less limiting. You could certainly encourage artists to consider particular subject matters or themes without requiring it. And that is often done. You might give in the call information about the site. You might give information about the public transit purpose of the site. You might give information about the historical uses of the site, and the fact that it is near to the Great Mall and the Ford plant. So that background information can be provided as an inspiration to the artists, but it doesn't necessarily discourage artists if you don't make it a requirement. And that concludes the staff report, and we'll be interested to see what you discuss.
Good, thank you, Stephen. Now, commissioners, we really have to talk about this. And I'm hoping that you've had a chance to at least think about this a little bit. It's a challenge for us. I would stress that the statement that Tegan included, which was that this pedestrian crossing is serving as a gateway to the city of Milpitas. So to me, it is significant. It should get a lot of exposure. It should be an introduction, chapter 1, if you like, of Milpitas, or Metro Milpitas. Can we get an initial response, an initial reaction on the points that Tegan raised towards the end of the presentation: the geographic limitations, demographic limitations, artistic style, and maybe even whether or not mural is preferred over tile. So let me start. Christina, are you with us? She's not. Okay, Joyita, could you start talking? Give us some ideas. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, Commissioner Ag, I have been thinking about different styles, and one thing that the style looks really, really good. It has a very strong visual impact, but you know, it can also be chipped. If somebody wants to spoil it, it can be broken. I mean, of course, with the mural also it can be destroyed, but you know, I think if it's a money constraint, of course, we should go with the mural. Where ideas are, I've been thinking whether it's a very diverse community. So it would be nice to have an artist represent that. Represent the different kinds of communities that are present in the, and to incorporate that to make it like that. This is the gateway. The valley, and this particular city is very diverse, and it is kind of speaks for what this valley is. It is in itself a little globe with different kinds of people. So that should be something that is represented in that mural. It might be hard, but you know, we can always give them ideas of what we're thinking to make it really brilliant, colorful. And it could be artwork on, just mural or tile. We have seen some beautiful artwork all around Milpitas, on the boxes, the electric boxes, but there has not been any tile. So the tiles would be something very special, it would really pop out over there. Because when we go through that the colors over there, the multicolor, it looks very nice. So to incorporate those, colorful kind of an image over there would be great. Yeah.
Joey, when you say the multicolors, you're talking about the veins on the pedestrian crossing itself?
Yes, yes, yes. So it should be kind of, movement from that color onto that pillar. So it's a connection with the color scheme with this. So it should not be just, like a blue or just a green. It should combine those colors together and kind of show how inclusive this city is. Of different kinds of people being here, different color. So it would be a nice thing to show that.
Have you seen anywhere close by in any of the local cities any murals that really caught your eye that you thought might be the same, similar in the vein of what you're describing? Joyitha?
I think she disconnected.
Yeah, hi Chair. She got disconnected, so we're trying to get her back on.
All right, whilst we're waiting for Joyitha, Benjamin, you have some impressions, some ideas, some thoughts you'd like to share?
I'm open to anything. I just prefer the art style not to be abstract. That's about it.
Yeah. Okay. Sandy, do you have any suggestions? Commissioner Umarini, do you have any thoughts?
Couple of things.
Yeah.
Right now I was looking at the picture and the area that was marked in yellow square, I think that is the area we are looking for the artwork. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. So it will be only facing the roadside, right? Like what I'm seeing is the, go ahead.
No, it's all four sides of that column, portions of it. So it's visible to auto traffic as well as pedestrians coming from any direction.
Okay, but it won't be inside. What I mean is, like, let's say like people are coming from BART and they're crossing the bridge and they are taking the stairs downstairs, like they're getting downstairs, they won't be able to see them. It won't be inside the stair area, right?
Correct. It's not inside the stairwell.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, what Joyitha mentioned, I liked her idea. But looking at the budget, I think the tile may not be really efficient. So the paint-based mural would be one consideration. And my apart from the art, I'm also interested in the management of that artwork. For example, as Joyitha mentioned, like what if it gets destroyed? Like do we have availability of that artist to correct it in the future? So based on that thought, I thought that it would be great if the artist is local to Bay Area so that we will have access and if we need to follow up with the artist in the future.
Sure. Oftentimes, if repairs are needed, artists are given first opportunity to do the repairs. So the closer they are, the less expensive, presumably, it might be. Yeah.
So that is what I'm thinking right now. And I will be driving around to see if I can find some great ideas and then I can share. But I don't have any specific ideas to recommend right now.
Okay. Is Joyitha back with us? So we've lost her for good, have we?
Chair,
Okay, well,
I did just check public comment and you have a public comment on this item.
okay. Okay, go ahead. Let's hear what the public has.
Okay. So this one is from Urvish Kumar Mehta. I request that you consider the artwork depicted based on the significance of the city and state, symbolizing the city's work and contribution toward public service, and the art exhibits to demonstrate geographical and cultural representation.
Right. Okay. Is it just that one?
That's the only one for this item, yes.
Okay. And Joyitha is still not with us, is that right?
Yes, I don't see her.
Okay, all right. Well, my thought is this. Let's just talk a little bit about the mechanics here. Keegan, you presumably will codify whatever we've discussed or whatever our ideas are before you go out to look for an artist or for quotes. And I'm just wondering whether what the deadline is for this, because it seems to me that this one conversation that we're having needs to be a lot more extensive. And I'm wondering whether one or two of the commissioners could form a subcommittee and actually iron this out in more specifics and more details. Then bring it back at a future meeting for discussion amongst the whole group. I think it's so important that we get this one right, that these somewhat superficial limitations are not adequate. That's number one. Number two, I sort of look back at what hopefully will soon be an ideal sculpture at Higuera Park, which to me, I think we can be proud of for a long, long time to come. And that we invested $30,000 in that. And here we have an opportunity, even if it's not a sculpture, we have an opportunity to paint our front door, as it were. And so, to me, limiting it to the suggested funds of between 10 and 15,000 really is shortchanging us. That we do need, I think, to find a way to spend a little bit more on this than that. And as I use the Higuera Park as a reference point there. I think Christina's back with us. So I don't know, Christina, how much you've heard of our discussion. Christina?
Chair, while she's getting situated, may I just make a observation to you regarding the timeline?
Yeah.
So the Montague Pedestrian Overcrossing is due to open to the public in February 2021. So typically cities do like to have the artwork done when they open the project. Renee can certainly chime in if I'm mistaken, but in past cities, that would be the goal, would be to have the artwork done when you open the project to the public.
All right. So let's just step back from that. So we're saying February, we would have had to have it done and ready for viewing, which, I mean, I don't know how long it would take to find a muralist. And I don't know how long it would take for that muralist to present, to complete the project. But if we were to have a subcommittee group that meets between now and the next meeting, and come back at the next meeting with a clearly defined set of guidelines, would that hold up this process?
No, you still, this project still has to go to council for approval as part of your 2021 work plan. And that won't be going till one of the meetings in October. To Tegan's point, yeah, it's ideal if the artwork is done by the time, you know, the project opens. But there's a couple areas on this bridge that you guys will be working on. And so, you know, that could be a goal to get it done by February. Because even if council approved it in October, then you put out some sort of call for artists. You got to give them time to respond. Then you review. Then then you have a contract, and then they get started. Then if it is a mural, you're in the rainy months. So that timeline might be a little bit difficult to meet February. So you could have a subcommittee meet and talk about it, but I don't. There shouldn't be a reason for it to drag on beyond, you know, one meeting. And I use the term drag on respectfully, but it doesn't need to, you know, go on meeting after meeting to just sort of identify who, the what, the where, and, you know, and then let the artist do the work and bring it back to you, you know?
Yeah.
Sorry that I got disconnected. Sorry.
That's all right, Judy. I think the 2 points that we covered was you were not with us. One was I suggested that perhaps we needed, there's a lot to be discussed, a lot of detail that I think that the commission should actually have provide some guidance to Tegan before we go out for an RFP. And my suggestion, my thought was that two of the commissioners spend some time between now and the next commission meeting going through this with a little bit more thought, a little bit more, or maybe a little bit more bias towards their own individual thinking, and then come back with this proposed approach at the next meeting for the full commission to resolve and agree upon. I think that there needs to be more specifics than we're actually covering right now. The second point was that I am a little concerned about the guidelines that we spend less than we spent on the Higuera sculpture. Not because there's anything irrelevant about Higuera Park. It's a very special park and I love it. I'm hoping that Renee read my article in the Milpitas Beat about how I love it. But this is the gateway to Milpitas. And to me, that means it has to have some significance, some relevance. It has to be meaningful, and it has to tell a story or tell the visitor who we are and what we're all about. So to me, I would be more tempted to spend a little bit more than between the 10 and 15 that was proposed. But again, I'll put that one side. If we could sit down, a couple of the commissioners between now and the next commission meeting and wrap out a little bit more specifically what it is we would like to see. I think we've got some generalities. Benjamin said not abstract. Sandeep agreed that it should be a mural. I think we all are leaning towards a mural. And he was concerned about protection of the artwork. So from my standpoint, I don't want to rush through it. You know, it is something that will be permanent, my hope, once it's there. So my thought is that we consider finding a couple of the commissioners to dig into this more deeply and come up with some proposals. So that's my thought. And I welcome any comments.
I have a couple just for not point of order, but just to make sure that when you're discussing at a subcommittee level or the commission level, that you are making decisions on behalf of the entire Milpitas community, and you're making recommendations to the city council. And so whether or not you want cubism in your home doesn't mean that, you know, somebody else may not like that. So where your personal tastes and ways that you would decorate or add art to your personal spaces, you should be thinking way outside of that box, so that what you're selecting is something that you think the entire community is going to enjoy, and not whether you'd put it, you know, in your front yard or on the side of your house. So I just want to, I worked on arts commissions for several years, and this is a common statement that I make, just to be very careful. Whether you like it or not is, you know, is not what we're asking for you guys to do. You're making those recommendations to city council for the entire Milpitas community. And also, the more, if you make it too defined, you're limiting the pool of artists that you get. So think of themes, mediums, etc. But again, like I said, let the artists do the work, because you might get something that, you know, is, you know, abstract, and the majority loves it. So don't whittle it down so much that you get proposals back that are limiting what the community might be able to enjoy for a long time to come. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to do the subcommittee, then I would just, you know, no more than 3 members, and take some volunteers, and staff can assist the subcommittee.
Yeah, actually, I was sort of seeing this, Renee, as a process similar to the process that we used to have when we didn't have COVID-19. I mean, we would actually go out to the community and get feedback. I don't know how we're going to do that with this, you know, in this situation. So that was my thought.
If I may, John?
Yeah.
The call for artists is simply asking people to submit their designs for you, but you can still obtain community feedback at a later point. That's often done through it. So there's no reason that we couldn't obtain community feedback later.
Okay. Well,
I wanted to ask a question. When you give a call for artists, do you already give a theme to the artist to work on for them to present it? Or you just say that you're interested in a mural? Do you already have something in mind before you approach an artist?
There's multiple ways that you can do that. You can put out a call and say, we want a, you know, mural for a fire station that has fire history in it or something. And you can be very specific, but you can also be somewhat generic in what you want. For a call like this, you would probably give the artists information about the area that they have to cover and your thoughts on what you might like to see there. But I would suggest, like Renee said, the more generic you leave your requests, the wider your pool of artists will be, because you will get some artists who have a thought and an idea of what they'd like to offer you for that spot. But if you've penned it in too much, you may have some good artists who decline to apply because they feel too hemmed in by your restrictions.
So I have one question. Is it okay to go ahead and ask the question, Keegan?
Yes, go ahead.
So as you mentioned that we can ask artists like call for action, and then we can go back to community and get the feedback. So are we allowed to share their proposals with the community? How does it work? Because since we haven't committed to work with a specific artist, how can we take their proposed work to community and get a feedback?
In an online environment, we could probably do, get the solicit feedback, put up a short list of the artists whose work you like and solicit feedback in that way. I don't know, when we'll be allowed to have people come through buildings, but perhaps, or, in spaces, but at some point, if that's allowed, we might be able to put mock-ups up, maquettes, and allow people to look at them. I believe you guys have done that in the past, Renee, with maquettes.
Yeah, so I think the process is you put out the call for the artists, you get a pool back, and then this body reviews them, and then you select the finalists. Then you ask those finalists to give you a 3D version of what they've promised or they're proposing. And then that's what travels around to the community, since none of us can really do that right now. That's what travels around, and the community votes on it. And we've done, even when we weren't in a pandemic, we did online outreach. So social media, people could actually click and vote on it through a mock form and identified themselves as residents or non-residents, just so we could keep track. So there's a number of ways to do it, but proposals aren't shared till, you've got, 3 or 4 people. Does that help, Commissioner? Okay.
And one more follow-up question. It's not related to my previous question. For example, while I was listening, some of the ideas started to come to my mind, like what we can have as a possible artwork. So how do we compile all the ideas? Do we have any plan of action for that so that we have enough ideas to work on?
I'm not sure who can answer that one at this point. I don't think at this point, I think we have a sketch, but it's a very rough sketch, Sandeep. And that's one of the reasons I was suggesting abbreviating the process by putting a couple of commissioners, maybe 3 commissioners together separately to sit down and just focus in on coming up with an outline of some sort. Bearing in mind Renee's point about this is not for us, it's for the community and to reflect the community's interests. Another thought, and if I may, Renee, is would there be any objection if we did it expeditiously of actually going to the community right now and saying what we're trying to do and look for some feedback from them?
I mean, there's nothing to say that you couldn't. You would have to wait till the council approves your work plan first.
Yeah.
But you would still want to give some parameters or things for them to give you feedback on, like a series of themes, etc. But again, then you're limiting the work to a small pool of artists who, this is what they do. This is their livelihood. This is, they have that creativity inside of them, and they're going to come up with things and ideas and images that I'll never come up with in a million years of thinking about it, or, the community for that matter, they're professionals. So you could insert community process, in several places throughout the projects. But you don't want them to go in too soon, because then it's just too big. Then you've got, 150, million, maybe not million, but you have a ton of feedback, and then what do you do with it?
Yeah.
You know, so you
Another,
know, if it was, yeah, go ahead, Tegan.
oh, I was gonna say, another way cities often do calls is, you're calling, if we were to do this and call for mural artists, you're calling for their portfolios. You're looking at what they've done already. And then you're picking the 6 or 4, or however many it is, whose portfolios you really love. And you're saying, okay, we like your style of artwork. Now we want you to propose for us specifically, what would you do at this location to convey these things that we want to share with the community, the welcome, you know, welcome to Milpitas, the diversity, the colorfulness, the history, whatever it is. And then you see what your top group comes back to you with. And that's when you go out to the community and say, you know, here are our choices. And sometimes you've narrowed it down and you're down between 2 or something that you're asking the community for feedback on. Or sometimes there's one that's just really obvious and you don't need to go to the community. The community will, you know, have their opportunity when they come to commission meeting or council meeting.
So I also wanted to know, once we have the artwork, does Milpitas own it? Does Milpitas own the image and the artist writes that she or he is not going to be selling the artwork in any other form, so that we can use that artwork in other forms if we want to, you know, make money for the city, make t-shirts out of them, you know?
No,
whatever.
typically not. The contracts are usually that you have permission to use the artwork and then you can use it for promotional purposes, but you can't use it for financial gain.
I see. But how about the artist? Does the artist have an ability to use
No.
that?
No, it belongs to the Milpitas, and you could, for example, you could make things and give them away, you know, with the image of whatever the artwork is, but you can't sell it, and the artist can also not make and sell the thing.
Okay, good. That's
Yeah.
what I meant.
But we do own the art piece when they're done with it.
We do own the art piece, and
Yeah.
we're responsible for maintaining the art piece.
Right.
I'm not sure how to direct this to give us some direction here. Before I try and summarize, is the work plan, does that have to include at this particular point a stated amount for the assignment in the arts fund for this specific project? Is it not possible for us to go back after we've come up with an approach and we see or we consider spending more on this, to go back to the council at a later date? The work plan right now doesn't state specifically how much we're going to spend.
It doesn't state how much you're going to spend. If you were to make a recommendation of a dollar amount, then we could put that into the work plan when we take it to council.
Okay. All right. Well, Deacon, I might need some guidance here, but it seems to me that what we need to do is, first of all, decide whether or not it makes any sense for us to have a subcommittee. I'm suggesting a motion that says that the commission forms a subcommittee solely for the purpose of specifying more specific details for the artwork on the pedestrian crossing, to be submitted at their conclusions to be submitted to the next commission meeting for overall discussion and review, so that within a month, approximately a month, we would have a very specific series of guidelines for you to work with. When I say specific, I don't mean that it's going to be in all the detail, but that it would give us a general feeling, bearing in mind again that, as Renee pointed out, that this is not for us, this is not our liking, it's more for the community. But it also has to convey a message, I think, to those visiting the city of what and who we are. So that's the motion. Do I have any seconds, or should we just move on? Do you have any comments?
So are you suggesting we don't have a subcommittee?
No, I'm saying we do have a subcommittee.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Would you second that, Joyita?
Yeah, I would second that,
Okay.
John.
Thank you. Do you have any other comments? Okay, so let's have a roll call. Christina? I think Commissioner Driggers is offline again. Commissioner Tang?
I don't think we need it, the
Okay.
subcommittee.
So that's a nay. Commissioner Umarini?
I think we should have it. It's a yes.
Okay. So on the assumption that Christina is not online, is Christina online, Tegan? Can you tell?
I do not see her at the moment, no.
Okay. So then we have.
Oh, wait, Christina's on in the public section. I'm not seeing her as a commissioner, but she's. Renee, have you ever seen this when they show up on the attendees? Oh, there she is.
Oh, there she is.
Just in the nick of time.
Christina, are you there? If she can't vote, you still have a quorum with the 4 of you. So why don't you just finish up the vote, John, with you and
Okay.
Commissioner Joyita.
I made the motion.
Did you hear me? I'm here.
No.
Oh, great.
Sorry,
I-
I was driving and I couldn't
That's
touch the
okay.
and drive at the same time. I didn't want to crash, so
That's
I'm
okay.
here.
Okay. And the car is working, I assume.
No, I had to drop it off at the mechanic. I had to meet the tow truck driver there to give him the keys.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's a mess, but I'm on my way home, but I'm here.
Christina, did you hear the motion so you can make a vote? If you didn't, that's fine, just abstain so we can move the item.
Okay, I'll abstain.
Okay, all right.
So we have abstinence. Yay, yay. So we have a majority then. Those in favor were not Driggers, Commissioner Ghost, Commissioner Tang, and myself. So we have a majority. I'm sorry, no,
I don't
I'm
think
sorry.
so.
Commissioner Umarini. And Commissioner Tang was a no.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, so now you need volunteers for your subcommittee, no more than 3.
Christina, I know that it's difficult for you to access during the day. Is that true?
Can you repeat that?
I'm sorry.
What did you just say?
Would you be available at all for a Zoom subcommittee meeting during the day?
No, I work till 5 every day.
Okay. And weekends, the problem?
What was that?
Are you available on the weekend, Christina, for
Sorry,
a
it's hard to-
subcommittee meeting or no?
Subcommittee, is this for the,
Pedestrian crossing.
what were you guys just talking about?
Yeah.
Sorry. Actually, no, I don't think we need a subcommittee for that. Do you? I mean, I know you do because you.
Oh, okay, we already took
Suggested it,
that vote. So out of the 3 people that voted yes, who would like to be on the subcommittee? No more than 3.
Joyitha, would you be available?
You have
You're
to
on
unmute
mute.
yourself.
Yeah, I will be available.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will be available if or you, Marini, Commissioner Marini, would you be available?
Hi, Chair John. I will be available over the weekends.
On the
Weekdays are very difficult right now.
Okay. I'm sorry, Andy, if I did not hear what you said. The answer is yes or no?
Yes, but only over the weekends.
On the weekends?
Yes.
Okay. Joyitha, would you be available on the weekends?
Yes, I will be.
Okay, thank you. Well, let me be the third member then, and I'll get back to you and we'll schedule a meeting and set it up and see when we'll have to do that.
Chair, I'll send you a reminder on how subcommittees need to be done, and I need to research how that happens during the pandemic.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Okay, you had one last public comment for this item and then you can move on. It's from Melissa Tan, 285 Edgewater Drive. Hi, I'm currently watching through the stream. I have a club at the Milpitas High School and I've gathered many talented student artists. I understand that you might want to have a professional artist to paint the mural, but if we submit our idea for the mural and it is approved, we can paint the mural as a community service.
Thank you.
So I would just think about that when you work on your subcommittee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. And please thank that student. So we move on. The work plan. And has everybody had a chance to look at that? The revised plan, as Tegan has sent us in the package.
Would you like a staff report?
I would like a staff report.
Okay, all right. So we have discussed this at our previous meeting on June 22nd. You had indicated at that time some ideas that you'd like to see in the draft work plan for 2020-2021. And so I've got those in blue shading. We've also got some items that City Council has indicated that it would like to pursue. The first of these, which we alluded to earlier in the meeting, is public art historical markers project for the parks that would be a joint project with the Park Recreation and Cultural Resources Commission. And it would include a marker for Sunny Hills Albert Augustine Jr. Memorial Park, but it could include other parks to be determined. The second item that council has expressed interest in is a lighted artwork that would be installed on the bridge portion of the Montague Pedestrian Overcrossing. We believe that should be included. And so I've added that. And then also there's three that staff believes you should consider. Supporting virtual performing arts programs and a virtual Phantom Art Gallery. So our virtual activities during the pandemic time, and supporting those with the public. The other, those could be accomplished by staff, but we would love to have the commission involved. And developing a maintenance plan has been a topic of discussion for many years, and was a goal last year that we did not accomplish. So we have suggested that again for this year. Thank you.
Okay. So I've actually got a black and white copy here. So the top one, the Public Art Awareness Campaign, is that the blue that you're talking about? Shaded in blue, or?
Yeah, I think if you're not seeing color, you're seeing
Oh,
it in gray.
oh,
Yeah.
I see.
So we have
I see.
promoting the public awareness campaign. You had talked about that for Milpitas Arts and Culture Grants. You had talked about previously the Montague Pedestrian Overcrossing. and prioritizing locations for public art to beautify specific areas of town. So those are things you all talked about.
Yeah.
The Augustine Memorial Park and other parks, historical markers has not been discussed, but we've added that to this conversation for today. The potential of a lighted artwork across the bridge on the Montague Pedestrian Overcrossing, which would be a big project if we were to undertake that. And that's one that council said they would be interested in pursuing, is one that we've put on there because of council's interest.
But clarify, this work plan is for 2021. Is there a thought that this would we would trigger or begin to start the lighted project this fiscal year, this year?
Yes, if you put that in your work plan, and council has expressed interest in seeing that in your work plan, yes, that process would begin this year.
Okay. And I'm constantly reminded that Councilmember Montana cautioned us about ever committing to anything that we wouldn't be able to start. And I just wonder whether, given what we have, we're going to be able to get involved in that as well. All right. Well, let's go back up. I must assume that those shaded areas we talked about at that time, and those basically are in place. That's the commission agrees with that. Is that a fair statement? Okay, I'm going to assume that no answer is a good answer. So let me move on.
What was the question again?
What is? Yes. I would love some feedback.
What was your question?
Well, okay. What we're trying to accomplish, I think, tonight is finalizing this work plan that we have, and some of these items we've hashed out, and are now they're solidified. There probably is no reason for us to go back and discuss them again unless somebody wants to change them. So I'm starting halfway down the work plan here. We've already agreed we will be working on the pedestrian crossing. We've also already agreed that there will be a call for artists very promptly for the pedestrian crossing, etc. So yeah. The next item on this list is conduct a call for artists for Sunny Hills, Albert Augustine Jr. Memorial Park, and any other parks to be determined jointly with PRCRC, the Public Recs Commission, Public Parks and Recreation Commission. So do I have any feedback on that? Is there any, well, what can I say? Is there an agreement that this be included in the work plan?
Yeah.
I have a staff correction for that one. So for the public art installations for the markers, we wanted to leave that open. So it could include Sunny Hills. It may not, depending on the Parks and Rec what needs to talk about it too for the markers. So if we could leave that as conduct, historical marker project jointly with PRCRC, staff would prefer that revision.
Okay. Do I have any responses from any of the commissioners?
No.
Thank you, Jay. Benjamin?
No.
Sandeep?
No.
Okay. I'm assuming that a no means that it will stay in the work plan. Okay, so unless otherwise, as modified by Renee. the next one, and I don't have my glasses with me. The next one is the selected commission artist for Sunny Hills Albuquerque, Albert August Jr. Memorial Park. That one we've talked about before, I believe. I think Tegan, you did that at the last meeting.
Yeah, no, you haven't talked about this yet. So it's related to the one above it. So it would be selecting any artists for the joint historical marker project with PRCRC. So we'll update that language. So it's really just calling out, you'd conduct, you want to work jointly with Parks and Rec on historical marker projects, and the result of that would be to select and commission artists for those projects.
Okay.
So what'll end up happening is you guys will have it on your work plan, Parks and Rec would have it on their work plan. The council would review both of them. They'd say yes, assuming. If they say no, then it's off the work plan. But if they say yes, then we'd set up a joint meeting between the two commissions, and you guys would work together on it. So it's potential for projects. But like I said earlier, if there's a park where the marker is very standard and it really doesn't require or have an artist involvement, then it's not really appropriate. There might be one that calls for a joint project and one that doesn't. That's why we wanted to leave it general.
Okay. Okay.
If that makes sense.
It does.
What kind of art are you looking for in the Augustine Junior Sunny Hills? Is it mural?
We're not even there yet. It's a project where they're renamed the park, and so it is a park that is in a neighborhood that has a lot of historical importance to Milpitas and actually nationwide. And so the discussion at the council level was to put something in the park to honor that that history, and to mention Mr. Albert Augustine as well. And so that still needs to be teased out, but also in general, the Parks and Rec Commission is wanting to work on historical markers and information each park, because the parks are named after people. Nobody knows who they are, what they've done, or why. Cardoza Park is just Cardoza Park, but named after a man named Tom. And so who was Tom Cardoza? And those are things. And so those are opportunities where it might make sense to work jointly commission on a aesthetically pleasing way to tell the history of parks and people in Milpitas. So that's what this project is.
Thank you.
And I would add that in the absence of markers, if you ever want to know why any park is named what it is, you just go to Renee and she will give you the history.
Sometimes, yes. Not every time.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to modify those two line items there.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll take care of that.
Okay. Then the next one down is determine specs for Montague Pedestrian Overcrossing second location. I guess my question here is, if we start the process, it could only necessarily be a call for artists who have specific expertise in art lighting or lighting art, whatever, creative lighting. So there would not necessarily be a lot of work on our part. It would be more actually on staff requirements. Is that right?
Well, it all requires staff, right, Tegan?
I know.
It does. It's part of managing the public art program, which Tegan does here and did with excellence in other cities before us. So you could leave it as lighted art as a suggestion. You could leave it blank and see what else comes your way, or have it as a discussion at the council level. But either way, Tegan can speak to this. more anytime you do a request for artists and anytime you execute a project like this. Even something as I'll say small as a mural in comparison, it does take a lot of staff time. It's project management. And typically it takes several departments to get these done. So
This would
Tegan,
be,
you wanna?
well, I would
That'd
just
be a
say
big one.
you're right. I mean, this one would, if council's desire to have a lighted piece over the bridge were something that we were to pursue, that would be a huge project. It's a big area to cover. So it'd be a high dollar project, and it's going to require lots of coordination because they'd have to close traffic to put it up and, you know, things like that. So this would be a very significant one if they did it.
Is this like a billboard, like something which will look like a billboard?
You know, what I think the council is probably thinking of, if you go to downtown San Jose, they have a lot of lighted projects now. There's one that you see from 680 that's up on the top of the building. There's one that's near the Shark Tank, kind of at an undercrossing area. And they're usually colorful neon kinds of projects. I don't know that they are neon. They're probably mostly LED now, but that kind of thing where the lights change and
Oh, that would be cool. Very cool.
But
it would be cool.
it would be viewed from the outside or from the inside?
I would imagine something like that would be visible from both, to people walking across the bridge and the people driving by it. The lights are going to be would be reflecting out, I would think.
That'll look very modern. Very good. That's a good idea.
So does any commissioner feel at this point that it should not be included in the work plan? And I'll go through with you individually, and you can say yay or nay. Christina.
I think we should keep it in.
Okay. Jaita.
Yeah, I'm totally for the lighted art.
Okay, Benjamin.
Yes.
Okay, Sandeep.
Yes, it should be.
Okay, and I also agree with that then. So the vote is unanimous. We'll leave it in. The review existing city and public art maintenance repair needs. My suggestion is, and I don't know whether, Tegan, you have any feedback here, but my suggestion is to leave it out of the work plan. It's highly unlikely at this point that that COVID-19 is going to free us up to do anything like that for the next few months. Could you just give me some feedback, Tegan?
Depending on how you wanted to go about it, I know Milpitas has in the past had commissioners go around and look at the art pieces and do it in that fashion. Yes, that probably, to go as a little group and do that would probably be difficult, but to go individually and look at pieces would probably not be too difficult if you were appropriately masked up.
Well, we did this before on the utility boxes, and somehow all that information was lost. So I'm just wondering at this point whether this is a project that we could do, but it would be better if we started it in 21, 22, rather than sort of leave it in and then find that we aren't able to do it.
Excuse me. I feel that since there is not much work going on, it'll be easier for us to get somebody to maintain it now, rather than, and get appointments for people who do repair and maintenance now, rather than later when things are normalized.
Okay. Well, I agree with you, Joy, but I'm just wondering at this point whether this is something that, if this is basically graffiti issues or issues related to artwork that we need to go back to the artists. It seems to me that we have, and I've been through most of the parts, not all of them, and I do see that there's a need for some work on a lot of the sculpture. Not a lot, but some. But I'm not sure how we go about that in this particular 2021 work fiscal year. That's my only question.
Is it how to go about it as commissioners to
Yeah.
take the inventory? We've done it a couple of different ways, but for the most part, you know, each commissioner gets assigned, I don't know, 5 pieces, let's say, and then you go out on your own and you take some pictures of the pieces on your phone. You note cracks in foundation, tile chipping at Starlight Bench at, you know, at Starlight Park, and note any of the deficiencies and take photos of any damage. And then those all get sent to Tegan, and then she compiles them with her staff's help, and then you guys review them in a meeting. And then you would prioritize, oh, you know what, this piece is 15 years old, it needs some help. Okay, this is number 1, you know, number 2, number 3, and you go through the list. And then yes, you give the artist, the original artist, first dibs at coming back and fixing it. If they're not available, then you move on to somebody else who's skilled in that area. We've done it both. Sometimes the original artist is like, yes, I'll be there. The other times, for example, the Starlight Park, that artist, she used to run a beautiful studio in Oakland. She moved to New Orleans. So she's like, no thanks, but you know, here's some people that I recommend. So that's kind of how you do it. You know, Tegan, is similar in other places you've worked?
No, not exactly. Both the other places I worked had professional conservators that they hired on a contract basis. And when I got to Dublin, that they didn't have a maintenance program. So the thing we did was hired a conservator to go around with staff, look at all the pieces and give us evaluation on the pieces, and a professional conservator's opinion as to what needed to be taken care of. And then we went to the Arts Commission with that information. We had a certain budget, and basically we had somebody else do the legwork and make the recommendations, and then we set up a plan. So.
Well, Renee, we're scratching the surface, as it were, with our commissioners, and I'm just wondering whether anybody would be willing to step forward and take on the task, or whether we assign, as you suggest, you know, each of us have 3 parks or 3 sculptures to go check out. We can do that. I'm just a little concerned that, well, I guess the question for the commissioners is, should we leave this in and take as a suggestion Renee's approach to this particular process, or should, as I had suggested originally, to leave it, not forget about it, but leave it until the following fiscal year? Does anybody have any input? Anybody have some thoughts on this?
Real fast, you might also look at the second thing, the public art collection. The second item is recommending a maintenance process. So you might want to think of that as, rather than sort of a quick and you know, photos with your phone and, you know, just documenting, you know, from a layman's perspective, is actually establishing the process for years to come. And so, to Tegan's experience, having an actual legitimate process and then having somebody come out and do evaluation of the work, we haven't done that yet. So it's probably a good time to do that. Takes the burden off the commissioners, and gives the city an idea of the value of the art that it's already invested in.
Renee, I like that idea.
Yeah, so I think that's the bigger picture you were looking at, Megan, is that right?
Yeah, that's certainly the direction I would like to go.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I would share with you that we found helpful in the previous city is once you've had a professional come in and tell you what the piece is worth, then when it comes time to repair the piece, if you have a piece as we did that was not worth very much, but was going to cost $30,000 to repair a piece that we originally paid $1,000 for, you kind of begin to wonder, do we want to keep this piece, you know? And I think it helps you make more informed decisions as you're going forward about what, where you want to spend your money.
Yeah. Renee, you come to the rescue again. I kind of like that suggestion. Then should we then just go with that one line item for that particular section, and then review the existing city-owned public art for maintenance? One of the questions I'd asked before, Tegan, is do we have a centralized list now of the sculpture or the artwork that the city owns?
We do not.
Okay.
We have it in different places.
Yeah.
And I have not had time yet to compile it into a single list.
Right. Okay. So how do the commissioners feel? Should we just leave, as Renee suggests, which is actually a very interesting project, recommend maintenance process for city-owned public art?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Can I ask one thing?
Of course.
Hagen's is more of an expert than I am in this area. Is does it not make sense to flip-flop the order, or does the review, is it a chicken and the egg kind of a thing with reviewing the existing inventory and then coming up with the process, or
they're actually separate, because if you're reviewing the city-owned artwork for maintenance and repairs, you're figuring out what you need to do with the pieces you have right now, but the process, you can determine the process before or after. We did the maintenance inventory, we did the inventory first, and then developed the process after we saw that really we were causing ourselves more problems by not maintaining stuff on a regular basis. Then when we had to do something to it, it was very expensive to repair it. So for example, like the Minuteman, that bronzes need to be taken care of. And if you don't have a maintenance plan in place to do that, you could find yourself with a bigger headache when you finally do go around to taking care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but if we were to flip-flop it so that we actually begin to end up with a process, but we also parallel with that, we're identifying some of the critical areas, the critical art that needs attention immediately. Would that not be one approach?
Yeah.
I kind of like flip-flopping it and recommending the maintenance process for city-owned public art as being item 1, and then review existing city-owned public art for maintenance, and we'll see how far we get at that. But presumably we've cherry-picked the ones that are most obvious. It brings me to ask you whether we've had any luck with the flutist in the middle of the pond. I'm afraid that I'm going to get another call.
Well, if you
Okay.
should get a call, the reason that we haven't progressed right now is because we need to get information on the patina colors. And I understand that our artist is recently back in the area. Is that right, Renee? So
I think so.
So
Yeah.
maybe I'll be able to reach her now to get some information on the patinas, but I can't get a quote until I know specifically what we're,
Okay. Would you let me know if you don't get hold of her the next couple of days? Because I have a way of getting hold of her if you don't, okay?
okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So do we need a vote on this, the flip-flop, or shall we just go with Renee's proposal? All right, well, go with the vote. We'll go with the vote. Hang on.
I like the idea of Tegan, that we should maintain it in time before it becomes very expensive to maintain. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you're saying leave it in. Would you object to having that as the second item versus the first and just flip-flop the two items there?
And no objection.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Do I have any other input from Benjamin or Sandeep?
I have no objection.
Okay, Sandeep?
I don't have objection, but I do have a question about maintenance and repair. So how do we decide which artwork needs maintenance or repair? What I mean by that is there may be some artwork that may be a little damaged, but it may not be owned by City of Milpitas.
Well, if it's not owned by the city of Milpitas, then it's not our responsibility to repair it. But if it's something that was installed under the public art ordinance, we need to reach out to the property owner.
Yes, I understand that part. My question is more like, how do I know if some artwork is owned by the City of Milpitas or not? So again, it comes back to the inventory list. Unless and until we have that, reviewing the artwork may not be very efficient.
If it's on city property, it belongs to us.
Okay, great. That's a good information.
Sandeep, do you have any specific
No,
artwork? No? Okay,
I think Tegan addressed my concern.
okay. And Christina, do you have any objections to switching the two items on the work plan?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Okay, so then Tegan, if we can just switch those two.
Okay.
Now, the last two items, I think, sort of tie back to the activity guide that you just released. I don't know whether you want to go through that in more specific detail, but the art program, you're talking about, the virtual art performing arts program. Perhaps you'll have to give us a little bit more information on that.
Sure. We've been working with our contractor who has typically directed the Milpitas Community Theater productions, and they are working toward a virtual production that would happen in starting sometime in the fall. I don't know the exact dates yet, but I think we're about to nail those dates down and have that probably in time for your October meeting. And so that virtual production would be something that we would love to have the commission's support of.
Okay.
And then similarly, the Phantom Art Gallery, we would love to be able to do a virtual version of the Phantom Art Gallery, since we can't invite people into our building right now to see artwork. It's a great opportunity for us to do it online, provide visibility to the artists. Some of the artists that you've already approved for display may be able and willing to have their artwork displayed digitally. Some of them it might not be conducive, but there may be other great artwork out there that's digital that people would like to include.
And aside from the activity guide, how would that be promoted? Would it be on the city website?
It will be, yes, and social media.
Okay.
We have a lovely new sign out in front of the community center, and we'll probably put it on our new sign.
Well, we can put it on lights on the pedestrian crossing too. I totally agree with and would love to be involved in both those items. Does anybody have any input on this? Would there be any objections to including these in the work plan?
No objection.
Thank you.
No objection.
Thank
No
you.
objections.
Thank you. Thank you. Then it looks as if we have a work plan. Stephen?
Yes, I have some, yes, I've noted you have a few corrections to your work plan, but the flip-flopping of those two items under the maintenance area, and we had some wording changes from Renee on
Right.
the parks item,
Right.
but I think that that's it.
Right.
I think I would like to point out, I know I included a note in your packet that we received from Miss Tan, the student artists, and she was also talking about the students' interest in the Montague Pedestrian Overcrossing. But you've also got your other beautification projects that might be an opportunity.
There is. There's the utility boxes, and I need some help from you on that before I talk with her. I don't know which utility boxes, all of them. I know about 24 that I visited myself, but I know there were more than that. And my question would be, are there, well, I know that there are utility boxes that weren't, that no art was applied. But before I talk with her, I think it would be good, Tegan, if we just talk a little bit about how we go about that. There were some issues apparently before my time on how we went about it last time. And maybe Renee remembers, I don't know, but maybe we could talk offline about that and see whether or not it's, she also might be, I'm not saying she might be a candidate for being a non-voting commissioner. After all, we are Zoom these days, and so she might be an ideal candidate to join us on the commission.
I think we're just fast with the utility boxes, and maybe it's a great project discussion for your next meeting. So we have the data of which utility boxes are city owned, and those are the ones that we did. Other cities like Hayward, they've worked out agreements with PG&E to paint their boxes, and usually they're fairly open to it. So this commission could look to expand to those boxes. I think when it comes to using the high school student, it's a matter of liability and having the parents sign off allowing the students, and then the teacher itself, there has to be some sort of advisor, and then that the school wants to take on the liability. And that was, I think, the last time we did it, some of the discussions around that. So we'd want to work that out way in advance if we were going to have the students participate again. It was very successful, and I think a lot of them are very proud to still see their artwork up there. But the utility boxes are definitely not permanent. Usually they're swapped out every 4 years or 5 years or so. So maybe it's a good discussion for next time on your beautification topic.
Okay, let's put it on our next commission meeting. There were a few other items I wanted to add. So maybe Tegan, I don't know whether you can, I think, gosh, I've forgotten her name, Rosanna was familiar with the issues with the utility boxes. So maybe she could give us some guidelines on that. before the next commission meeting, and we could add it as one of the future agenda items.
Mhm.
Okay. The other thing is, I was just wondering whether we could put on the future agenda items. Modifying the public art fund, the update of that to a quarterly statement, just so that you're not, we're not on a, you don't have to report on it every time, but every quarter, perhaps you can give us an update. And leave on the future agenda items the overview of the mobile stage. We know right now that we can't do anything about it, but I'd like to leave it on the future agenda items. So I think we go to city liaison reports.
And I don't know that well, Carmen's not here, so you don't have your city council liaison.
Right.
And I don't know that I have a whole lot that we haven't already shared and talked about, right?
Okay. So the only other thing then is to discuss the next meeting date. Presumably that would be in October, is that correct?
Well, actually, you have a regular meeting at the end of September. This one that you're having right now is a special meeting.
Oh.
This is replacing the one that you had intended to have in August. We didn't have a quorum, so we rescheduled it. But your meetings are the fourth Monday of the month, so there would be one in September. I believe it's September 28th. Yeah, September 28th is your next regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay. Well, let's have it. Let's do it. Renee. And presumably between now and then, the the Recreation Commission will be having a meeting. Is that true?
Yeah, our meeting this month is special as well, just because of the Labor Day holiday. So they'll meet one more time in September, and then the goal is to take all the commission work plans to City Council for approval like mid-October. And so after that, then everyone can go on and, implement their work plans with joy. So that's kind of the timeline right now.
Okay, so when is the one in September that you're having?
I think it's the 22nd. Hold on one sec. Let me just pull my calendar up. I know Rochelle's listening and probably correcting me, but let me just look real fast. Yeah, 22nd, Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would that be the evening?
Yes, 7 p.m.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, are there any other issues? Anything we want to discuss? No?
John, one question about the mural. Since rain starts sometime around November usually, right? So
Yeah.
are we thinking of getting the mural up before the rains or wait till next year?
You guys already closed the item. You can't talk about it anymore. So, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. You can talk about it at your subcommittee level. You're both on it.
Okay.
That's an appropriate time.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Renee. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. All of you stay safe, stay healthy, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye. Thank
Stay
you.
safe.
Yourselves, all of
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye now.